Hey Defying Gravity Volleyball family, it's Coach T and I'm back with another YouTube video. In today's YouTube video, I'm going through all 6 rotations for the 5-1 rotation that I have run with my team for many years. Don't forget to check out my Etsy page if you want to follow along. I have all 6 rotations on there for an easy downloadable guide with their rotation positions, where people are moving for serve receive, and small descriptions of why, including also an in-game cheat sheet that you can use to check your team's rotation quickly in-game. But with that, let's finally just hop right in. So I first wanted to make this video for members only, but then I realized, you know what, I want to share the wealth. I want people to be able to have access to this. So this will be for all of my YouTuber subscribers and people that aren't. So please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I want to make sure I give you guys as many resources as possible for free. So hopefully this change of heart will benefit more people. All right, so let's start with rotation 1. So I'll have my little guides here, which you can again download on my Etsy page. I would appreciate if you actually did it that way instead of screenshotting, but to each their own. Hopefully you can support me. So at the very top, you can see something called rotation position. So that's something I added in here because that's what I also use when I teach my athletes about rotations. I want them to know what their rotation position is. And for those that don't know, to simplify it as much as I can, it's really just an athlete's turn in their serve. Rotation positions are like this. In 1 is the setter, in 2 is outside 1, middle 1 is in 3, the op is in 4, outside 2 or a DS is in 5, and the libero is in 6. So now that we know their rotation positions, where they're going to be standing when the ref comes over to just check that they're in their spots, now we can move on to serve receive. Just to put it out there, serve receive is only when an opponent is serving at us. So if we did the coin toss and this is rotation 1 and we set up, we won the coin toss, our setter would be serving first. We would just have everyone stay in their spots and they'd be focusing on starting in the rotation position and then running to their base positions or transitioning as the setter will do because they're going to be coming out of the back row to set. But let's say the opposite happened. We did the coin toss and we lost the first ball. So we are going to be on serve receive for the first point. So let's start right there. Rotation 1 is pretty easy because only one person is really shifting back for serve receive. And a really easy way to make this more logical for your athletes to remember and yourself, honestly, would we want our setter to be in spot 1, one of the 3 people that are going to pass the ball? Definitely not, because ideally we want our setter to get the second touch every time, right, to set up our offense. So what we do is we take our outside and we pull them back to cover the setter. An important thing to remember here is that the outside needs to be in front of the setter. The setter can't be directly next to the outside. Another important thing to remember is that the opposite can hit outside for 1 if you want them to for this possession. So the opponent serves over the ball at us. The first pass, let's pretend the libero got the first pass, our setter transitioned to the front row, and they decided to set up the outside, which currently has the opposite in it. The opposite hits outside for 1. Once we send the ball back over the net, we all run to our base positions. That's a quick rundown of rotation 1. Now let's move on to rotation 2. The setter is in 6 for rotation 2. So that just pushes us into our rotation position. So the middle 1 is now in 2. The op is in 3. Outside 2, which you might have subbed in if you started with a DS in the back row. The outside 2 is in 4. The barrow is technically in 5. And the setter is technically in 6. So again, just to reiterate, when we're on serve, our teams really just have to think about their rotation position starting there. Once our teammate contacts the ball on their serve, which will be outside 1, a DS, or if you want to sub in a server and then sub in a DS back, whatever your thing is, you're kind of getting my gist of saying if you want to, you still have so many options as a coach. Even with me giving you this exact guide, you have so many ways to modify and change the trajectory of things. Let's say the outside 1 is the one that's serving. So once our outside 1 contacts the ball, everyone will release to their base positions. Now getting into the crazy parts of it, serve receive rotation 2. So we have a few people moving here because our setter is in a very vulnerable spot, technically in rotation position, right? They're in 6. They're in technically the way back middle spot, something that's very defensive. So the setter is pushing up from 6 and they're going to push up to the 3 spot. But we just lost a passer, right? So you have to fill in what you lost. If the setter can't pass and we're moving them, we have to now fill that gap. So how we do that is we take outside 2, we move outside 2 from their 4 position, and they're just pulling back to pass. So now they're in rotation position 5 to pass. To give room for that, the libero is going to push to 6. The outside 1 or the DS that you subbed in, they're still in their same spot, and we push our middle back to the 10-foot line. You have so many options. You can choose to have your MB1 stay in the front row and have them just run directly to their middle spot if you want them to. You can have opposite hit middle for 1 and middle 1 hit right for 1. There's many, honestly, too many options here for this lineup, but something I tend to do is having my middle 1 pull back to the very corner 10-foot line. I think that gives a little more leeway of if people on the opposite side want to aim for them, they'd be really easy for them to line judge because that's a very hard spot to hit. Or if I feel like my middle 1 is not really getting the reps that I need them to get, or they're passing a lot more and they're targeting them, I might pull up my middle 1 and try to push them closer to the stack so they're out of the passing lineup. All right, so let's move on to rotation 3. We're going to start with rotation positions. So something that's big about rotation 3 that my whole team knows, you start shuffling during 3rd rotation, you see people coming in and out. The libero and MB2 are in now. So as you know, the liberos get nice easy switches. They don't use my substitution allotment. So the libero is going to go in for middle 1 because I don't want my middles to pass. So that's a quick fix. So now, since the libero switched in, they are now in position 1. Our outside 1 is in position 6. Our setter is now technically in position 5. They're getting really close to the front row, but they're not there quite yet. Our middle 2 just subbed in, and they're now in position 4. Our outside 2 is in 3, and our opposite is in their perfect ideal spot. They are in rotation position 2. Okay, so as you can see, the serve receive setup for rotation 3 is very difficult to look at. It's not the same as rotation 1. It has a bit more to it. So let's figure that out. The setter is pulling up from rotation 5, and they're going to stack with outside 2 and middle 2 in the front row. Usually the setter is right on the 10-foot line, but their body is facing where they're running to. They are trying to run to the position 2 spot. Middle 2 will run to the middle, and outside will stay in transition for their hit right there. This is honestly the hardest rotation to watch. A lot of times we would get in ruts and the setter's just running back and forth over and over again to their spot. So this is an important one to make sure you have strong passers in the back row to have a nice high ball so they have time to run to their spot and set up an offense to get out of this serve receive rotation. Our stack in the front row is pushed very tight as much as we can so that way our back row doesn't have a wide open corner. It's very important and technical, as you can see, to not cross bodies. So let's move into the back row. We moved our setter up to the front row. So now, as we know, we want to fill that gap with the passer. So I take my opposite, who's technically in front row, position 2, and I'm going to pull them back to pass, and they're now in position 1 to pass. That makes me have to shift my libero. They're going to be shifting to position 6, and my outside, who was in position 6, is now shifting to position 5, making sure that they are not crossing the left of the setter. The setter is in front of them in the front row, but they're definitely not crossing them. If my setter's right here and I'm here, I'm making sure I'm here. If I'm here, I might be called out of rotation. It's very important to just be careful, honestly. Sometimes refs don't notice it, but I have refs that definitely notice these things, so it's very important. All right, let's move on to rotation 4. Our setter is in 4. And now our setter is in front row. I love these next 3 rotations because our setter now has the option to be their own offensive threat. So let's start how we always do. Let's start with rotation positions. Technically, where are they in their turn to serve? The setter is in 4. MB2 is in 3. Our outside 2 is in 2. Our opposite is now in the back row, as we know, because they're always across from each other, right? So if the setter's in the front row, the opposite probably just shifted to the back row if you're doing it correctly. So the opposite is now in 1. Our libero is in a great spot. They're in position 6. And our outside 1, or your DS, is in position 5. As you can see, there's a lot of shifting. Everyone is shifting besides my setter. There's another way that you can do this without having to pull your outside 2 all the way across, but this is just how I choose to do it. For instance, to start, I'll start with the front row. Our middle two, I push them to stack with the setter in position 4, but I take my outside two from position 2 and I pull them all the way to position 5, making sure they are on the right side of the middle two and setter stack. That's very important. Since I'm pulling my outside two to position 5, we know now, as we've learned over these rotations, we now have to shift everyone else so that we can make room for them and we're not out of rotation. So our outside one, who was just in that position, I'm just shifting them to position 6. Then I shift my libero, who was just in the position 6 spot, and I actually pull them up very close to position 1, but I put them closer to the 10-foot line to grab short balls, mid-range, donut, or campfire balls, whatever terminology you use for that sweet spot. And then I take my opposite, who is just in that one spot, and I push them all the way back to be a line judge. So they're in the very deep corner. They can check if a ball is going to go deep. They can yell it out. They can get those deep balls and communicate it. They can cover their libero. So even though the opposite line judge, as I'm saying it, obviously please pass it if the ball is supposed to go to you. That doesn't mean, oh, it's out. No, it just means like you're very there to communicate if the ball's in or out, but you're also there to pass. That's why I have 4 people passing. And thankfully, even though I did make the outside two's job very difficult because I'm pulling them all the way across to pass, once they pass the ball or don't, let's say the libero passed the first ball and the setter ran to get to their spot 2, their base position to set, the outside is already just right there. They can just scoot right up. They don't have to run all the way across the court. They can scoot right up to position 4 and they're transitioned to hit. The middle is instantly also running to their middle spot, transitioning to hit. So it's actually also beneficial, even though it's a little annoying that I pull them back to pass. We're moving quick. Next is rotation 5. The setter is now in 3. Let's start with our usual, the rotation positions. Our outside 2 is in 1. Middle 2 is in 2. Our setter is in 3. Outside 1 is in 4. Our libero is technically in 5. And our opposite is technically in 6. For this, the setter is almost technically in their ideal positioning. They're really just having to back up a little bit. So the middle is just going to make sure in the front row it's pretty easy. They're not doing anything but running to their base position once that ball is contacted by the opponent. And so I pull my outside 1 to pass. Again, as you can see, you see why I want to make sure I have good passers for outsides, and I don't typically always use defensive specialists, but you can. But I pull my outside from 4, I pull them to 5. That means I have to shift my libero, who was just in 5, to 6, but I pull them up again closer to the 10-foot line. I want them to be close to that campfire donut area. I shift my opposite, who was just in 6. I shift them to the right side of the libero, so they're right in between the libero and outside 2. I think that adds good depth for deep balls, in or out, and they're really covering the libero when they might see a ball that's going over them, but they can't really adjust. It's a good communication spot. So as you can see, the opposite needs to have really good communication and connection with their teammates, especially on defense. And the outside 2, they're honestly just in their same spot. They're just going to be passing in the 1 spot. And as we know, once the outside 1 passes or doesn't pass, they're right there, transitioned. Once they go up to the front row in position 4, they can get ready to hit. All right, let's wrap it up. Our last one, rotation 6, our setter is in 2. As a setter, this is our favorite one. We're not having to run all the way across the court like our other rotations. We're right in our ideal spots. And again, just like in rotation 3, there's a lot of shuffling that's going to be going on before this play starts. So our setter is still in front row, their ideal spot, but our middle 1 and libero are back in. So there's a lot of shifting that is happening. Libero just went in for middle 2. Serving or not serving for them. Our middle 1 just ran back in and they're now in position 4. So those are the shifts that are happening, lots of shifts and running going on. But our rotation positions, let's go into what we keep starting with. So our setter is in their perfect ideal spot. They're in 2. Our libero is in 1. Our outside 1 is in 3. Middle 1 is in 4. Our opposite is in 5, and our outside 2 or DS is in 6. So how we handle all of this on serve receive is our setter, as we know, I have to keep reiterating, it's beautiful. Our setter is in their ideal spot. They don't got to do nothing. Our middle 1, they're just going to stay in position 4 because I'm pulling back my outside 1 to pass, and they can't just go directly to their base position, or they would technically be out of rotation. So I just keep them in 4 for now. Again, you can choose if you want your middle 1 to hit outside for 1, but I choose not to because the outside's right there, and I can just pull them right back up after they pass, as we've been doing the last couple rotations to keep it consistent. I pull my outside from position 3. I pull them back to 5. to pass. That means I have to shift my opposite from 5 to 6. They're again covering that deep ball, calling line, all of that good stuff. Outside 2 is also shifted. They're moving closer to 1, getting the shorter balls, donut, but that mid-range much closer. And the libero is pulled up closer to the 10-foot line, getting short balls, communicating, and they're nice and close to the setter. So if they're trying to aim to get a short ball to the setter for some reason, the libero can pick it up. All right, I tried to say as much as I could about each rotation. It's very different when I'm teaching it to athletes. So if you want a video of how I describe it to my athletes in real time, I'm doing that upcoming in this new season with a new team I'm working with. Then please let me know. I'd be happy to film that and share it with you guys once the fall season comes back around. If not, though, I hope this helped you guys out a lot. Please don't forget that my Etsy template is easy instant download. It has an in-game cheat sheet and all the cease rotations that I've been showing you here, rotation position, serve receive, and small descriptions in case you need that as well, if you don't want to keep rewatching my video if you forget. I hope this helped you guys out. Please don't forget to check out my TikTok and Instagram. I post on them daily, if not weekly. And also, something I forgot to say, thanks for 300 subscribers. I think it's coming up really quick lately, and I'm so thankful that people want to keep subscribing here. I love YouTube the most. It's always my favorite app since a kid, so I really appreciate the love on YouTube. And as always, don't forget to check out my website, defyinggravityvolleyball.com, where it all originated. My blog posts, videos, contact information is all there. So make sure you check that out as well. But if not, I hope this helped you guys out, and I hope I see you in another video. Bye.